Oh.
Who listens to God?
Mhm.
In the prophet, Samuel's name
Yeah.
comes from that.
Yeah.
Who listens to God?
Right, yeah, that's what
Oh.
Shema means to hear. Anyway, yes, so that's where it comes from, and a lot. Hence, why there are so many Jews named Samuel.
Gotcha.
Well, there's two books of it.
It's popular for that reason, if nothing else. That's true. Yes, and it's got a nice share of our story. Okay, we're gonna
There's no
start.
Hebrew word Lorne.
You what?
There's no Hebrew word Lorne.
Lord.
Yeah, Lauren's not named, I guess, after one of our heroes.
Well, Mitzi was Mitzi Gaynor, so you know.
I have an Aunt Mitzi. You know, we got a lot of Jews named Mitzi in the Northeast, and I guess now any of them that are all in Florida. But in any event,
I usually hear, well, I had a dog named Mitzi. That's what a lot of people say to me.
I had an aunt named Mitzi. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna get back to Job 11. Again, we got Job's defense of himself in Job 10, in which he was saying, "I'm not a blasphemer. I just think I've been dealt with poorly. I'd like a revisiting, even though I understand that a revisiting implies that I am calling God's justice imperfect and therefore am criticizing. But again, I'm only trying to do so in this very specific case. I don't deny theodicy right? This is essentially what he's trying to thread the needle for us, saying, I'm not bad, but there has to be room for me to question what's going on here. Even while being a believer, right? These other people are saying you can't be a believer if you're not a zealot, essentially. If you're not 110% all in at every moment, you're just they're like, you should have been like, thank you, I deserved this, right? That's a zealous thing to say to such a harm that's been done to oneself.
What does zealots do with Abraham's bargaining with God?
There was nobody around to deal with that then. So Abraham didn't have a couple friends with him being like, oh, you can't say that about God. He was the first monotheist. So everyone else would have been like, you're talking to one God? What's wrong with you? Like, there wouldn't have been this concept of, how can you deal with this one God, So yeah, I would say they give him a pass on that note alone. Okay, we'll start with our blessing for the study of Torah before we get into chapter 11. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. You say amen, you get full credit. And we will continue with chapter 11 here. V'ya'an, we got a response from Sofar, Na'amati, so the Na'amatite. And what does he say? He says, is a multitude of words unanswerable? Must a loquacious person be right? As someone who is a loquacious person myself, who loves to say a lot of words when a couple would do, which you all know since I spout at you every week. It's a very interesting. So this guy, yet again, we're going to get a different approach to dealing. We've gotten two other approaches. Now we're going to get the third friend's approach to dealing with, right? One was like, hey, buck up. You can do it. A positivist approach. One was a cautionist approach. The second one, right? He was like, hey, you're getting pretty close to that blasphemy guy. You better turn around and change what you're doing. You're getting, ooh. With the finger the whole time. This guy, if he's got a finger, he's going more like this, right? It's a lot more accusatory right off the bat, right? It's not an ad hominem necessarily, but this is kind of like, this is an argument not on the merits of the arguments, but rather, right? He's just like, is a multitude of, right? He's like, should one who speaks so many words not be answered? So in other words, do you think that you speaking a lot is enough to end all discussion? So that the debate will end with your stated position, right? Well, you'll exhaust us. You'll filibuster us into not believing what we believe and into believing what you believe, right? He must a loquacious person, someone who speaks a lot and does so with a little aplomb, someone who has some public speaking ability and rhetoric, and command of rhetoric rather. Must they be Yitzdak, right? From Tzedek. Must they be the righteous one? Must they be correct? Right? Simply by, if you spoke well, does that make you right? I feel this question is asked a lot these days. Maybe that's why I'm, people want to tell me, well, they speak really well. They do really well on the campaign trail. They energize a lot of people. Again, I hate to remind people that, again, I'll use all kinds of people. Hitler, Stalin, and Mao all excited a lot of people. This is my problem with populists. Exciting people is not a moral good. We shouldn't be here saying, let's just see how many people we can get excited. Anyway, so this is kind of his comment here. Okay. Verse 3. Your prattle may silence people. Prattle, that's an...
And just put that as talking freely.
You may mock without being rebuked. And say, my doctrine is pure, and I have been innocent in your sight. What's he saying here? This is a good two verses to, right? So he's really saying, here he's saying, Badecha mitim yacharishu vatil ag, vitil ag, the ein machlim. So it's interesting because I might translate, again, and Steinsaltz has this translation I want to point out to you here. This is closer to what I would get, probably. Your fabrications have silenced men. Okay, men, we're doing people, fine. Your instead of prattle, right? Lies are right lies, essentially, is the root here. And so, but the idea of fabrications, again, he said, you're building constructs rhetorically that bear no resemblance to reality. And so you win an argument, and then he says in the second one, he explains himself. He says, and what does he accuse Job of doing? You say, my doctrine, or my discourse here, is pure. And I have been innocent in your sight. Who is your?
God.
But is it God? In the words of this author, of this speaker. Think about the first line. What is he accusing Job of doing here? Which I think a lot of people do today. Yeah, he is. Yes, he's certainly saying he talks too much. He probably thinks he thinks too much too, but he definitely thinks he talks too much. But what is he saying he's doing with all the talking?
Rationalizing.
Rationalizing, yes. He's constructing his own world, his own courtroom, setting up a figure to be God and making it your. He's saying, and the commentator says, I am considered innocent by my audience, right? And that's an important thing because the audience part is not... The your here is saying what he's doing is, and again, this would be pretty blasphemous. He's putting words in God's mouth and saying, I know that if I was only before God, I could make my case and God would agree with me. Now, you might see that as not bad. I personally don't see it as that bad. But he is presenting it how? As evidence of Job building his own world, rationalizing what he may or may not have done. Again, this guy doesn't know that Job hasn't nobody knows what's going on in somebody's back life, and you know, and they're and so the friends are like, you might have done something. We're humans, we don't know. You might have done something, and now you're sitting here telling us, "Oh, I was innocent and perfect." And the first two guys are like, "Hey, you know, we're on your side," and this last guy's like, "You know, man, the way you speak and the way you do things, I'm not sure if I am on your side anymore."
But this presupposes that he knows what Job has done and that it is evil and that
It
Job
does
is
balance. It does go against. Now they're not Jews, so it's hard to judge them on this because it's not their rule. But we have a rule that we should always dam l'chaf zechut. That we should always judge. Literally, what it means is to the hand of the worthy. What does that mean? Because judging to the hand of the worthy is a really weird phrase, especially nowadays. What it means is give the benefit of the doubt. You should judge as if they were on the side of, you know, as if what they're saying to you is something you can rely on. That's a rule Jews have when interacting with other human beings. It's not a rule, again, like all of our rules, basically, except for 7 of them. It's not incumbent upon other people to do that. And so these people don't have to. They can, they're allowed to. They just don't have to.
But he's not talking from a position of saying, I know what you've done and I know that it's wicked. He's talking from a position of saying, if you're being afflicted, then you must have done something.
I would actually say at this point, he's only just making a meta argument. He's making an argument about arguments, right? He's making an argument about the style in which Job has made his argument. Even as much as the substance at this point, right? Now we're going to get to what he's going to do his own bit of theater for us as to what he's going to play the other hand, right? This is kind of where we get the idea maybe of this guy, by the way. We keep saying, and people like to say in this, that Hasatan is the devil's advocate. Well, if we're doing Hasatan as whoever you want to think Hasatan is, technically this guy is the devil's advocate. He's the advocate's advocate, right? He's Hasatan's advocate, right? This is the closest to Hasatan with Job that we're going to get. Is this friend is going to be the, like again, this is like cross-examination, right? He's playing for a jury here. This friend, so-called friend. I don't know if I still want to call him that. He's, again, because he's playing, the jury is the other friends, I guess. But this is not an argument you make if you're trying to convince Job. The first two guys were genuinely trying, misguided or not, were genuinely trying to convince Job of something for the sake of Job, for his own good. Right? The first guy says, hey, buck up, let's turn it around, we can do it. We all see why that's to Job's benefit. The second guy is warning him, again, in the Jewish sense, we believe that tochacha, or righteous rebuke, is the act of a friend when they stray from the correct path. And so the second guy also, it seems, is doing not attacking him, but warning him, which is what, again, we think people should do. So the first two seem to be doing something for Job's benefit. You can tell me when you think this switches to being to Job's benefit. I haven't seen us get there yet. Mm-hmm. It seems like he's attacking Job for the benefit of other people listening, like you would see again in political debate and whatnot, not like you would see in friends trying to help. This is a theological debate essentially, not a friends trying to console a friend who's lost everything, and we can't lose sight of the human context. Because otherwise, this doesn't seem as weird. If you're like, well, I'm reading a book about theology and they're talking about theology, that's not strange. I guess not. But that's not really why they were supposed to all be in this room together. Job didn't say, come, we'll all have wine and talk about, which you probably shouldn't do, but we'll all get wine and talk about politics and religion. It'll be great. But that's not what happened. So, it's just, anyway. Does anyone want to comment on where we are with the first 4 verses of this? I've been speaking a lot, and I want to give you a chance to express how you feel about this. Okay, we'll agree about one. Yeah, go for it.
I like how Job just sticks to his guns. My doctrine is pure. I don't know. He's getting beat up, it seems to me, and he just keeps thinking it, and I think he is looking within to see, did I really do something? But he's hanging in there, sticking to his, I know I did right.
It's interesting because right, as long as it's an interesting tension where
Mhm.
if he is righteous, which we know he is, this is the conceit of the book, obviously, is that we know that he's that he didn't do anything wrong. His friends are the ones who have to live in doubt. But so when he says, "I did it, I'm righteous, I'm good," we go, "Yeah," because we're on his side because we saw behind the curtain. I'd like to think even this guy, if he had seen behind the curtain, would equally be on Job's side. But he don't. It's what they don't know that is is intention, and how generous they're willing to be, and where their own theologies, for the purpose of the book, it helps that they're all different, but where their own theologies lie. And it helps because there are lots of people you'll encounter with each of these three theologies. These are three basic theologies that across religions that people are going to have. The accept what God gave you and move forward with courage or grace or whatever word you want to use. That's one type of basic theology. You find a lot of religions that share it, and people within religious groups that share it. The second one of let's make sure we're not offending or doing the wrong thing to God or the gods or whatever. There's a lot of cultures, especially in the East, that practice that kind. Shintoism is one of them in Japan. I would even go so far as, well, I'm not sure about Hinduism, but it's like there are some religions that follow that ethos, and this one is, hey, there are religions out there that are very, aggressive. I guess I'll say with their certainty, and their certainty makes them gives them an exalted place, at least in their own mind.
I agree with you, Mitzi.
Yeah.
As a human, I like the strength that this man has
Yeah.
to say, but I'm being honest with myself, and I know I'm right, or I believe I'm right. There's also, I think, an implication here that God is clapping too and saying that's good. You stand by your God.
Well, yeah, because he's taking Shaitan's position and God is saying no.
Just as we think that God was pleased that Abraham argued with him, there's the same sense between the lines here. For me,
Yeah.
I think God is pleased that Job will stand up for himself.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
Personally, I see a lot of Captain America in Job, and that's good because I like Captain America. This is very much his. There's this speech that I think they did it in the movies, if you're familiar with the movies, but they gave it to the woman who plays like Agent Carter or whoever. They gave it to her in the funeral scene, but there's a line. Oh man, I can't believe I'm doing this in a Torah class.
But it's good to see how it relates to us now, right?
Yes. That's right.
Even if it's Captain America. I mean.
Yes. This was done a while ago. So it's not from like the last like year or so. This is what I think of when I think of Job, right? And Captain America says, I'm doing it like it's Torah. Doesn't matter what the press says, doesn't matter what the politicians or the mobs say, doesn't matter if the whole country decides that something wrong is something right. This nation, again, this is part of why I feel deeply an affinity between Judaism and Americanism. This nation was founded on one principle above all else, the requirement that we stand up for what we believe, no matter the odds or the consequences. When the mob and the press and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree beside the river of truth and tell the whole world, no, you move.
Yeah.
So right, and I see the similarity here just in the sense that Job very much is in a place where the world is essentially telling him, his whole world is telling him, you must just do and accept the way we believe everything is played out because we believe it. And we are the majority. And what we say goes. And Job's like, I'm not having any of that. Right? Yeah.
Ask a question.
Yeah, please.
It seems that in the arguments in the Talmud, though, majority wins.
So again, this is the tension, right? In the Talmud, the majority wins. But it's not a majority of everybody, right? It's not doctors and merchants and beggars and gamblers and rabbis and lawyers and shopkeepers and soldiers. It's a very specific group of experts, right? This is the democratic tension that a republic faces too. You give voting rights. You don't give them to everyone. There is not a 13-year-old in America eligible to vote. That's okay. I'm restricting the vote by saying that. I'm challenging democracy, depending on how rhetorically stupid you want to be, by saying that. But we all understand that it's functionally true. So I guess
when we make those
Yeah.
restrictions,
Yeah.
we won't allow them to say, hey, no more women voting. Or
Well, we did that for a long time. We only decided in 1919 that
Right.
women were allowed to vote.
Yeah.
African Americans were only allowed to vote after they were allowed to be
Yeah.
citizens in 1965. I'm sorry, 1965 was the Voting Rights Act, but technically some black people had the right to vote since 1865 when the Civil War.
Back and say, hey, the Republic started falling when the women voted, because I've seen some people say that.
Yes, there are extremists that say lots of crazy things about how, look, I'm not actually out here making an argument for what I'm saying is Judaism, like America, lives in tension of wanting the majority view to be represented. But remember that the Talmud also does two things. One, it makes sure that it's experts. It's not just everybody, right? Mm-hmm. The 11-year-olds don't get to vote. That's what Judaism says. That's what America says. And what's the second thing that the Talmud does? What did Hillel do? Why do we value him so much? The minority view is always recorded in the Talmud. And the reason we value Hillel so much, as a reminder, is that Hillel taught the opposition's view before his own. Such was his greatness of spirit, that he was willing to teach something he desperately disagreed with before he brought in his own teaching.
Okay.
There's risk to that, you can tell. That's why it's such a magnanimous thing to do. And that's part of why the Talmud says that the halakha follows him in almost every instance. Because that's something you can trust. That's a magnanimity that you can trust. We want leaders deep down, no matter what else we say we want. The reason the populace, I believe, will lose in the end in a democracy is because the people want someone they can trust. And someone who tells people whatever they want to hear is never trustworthy. And a lot of people can sense that. In any event. Again, it's a long battle. It's not, I understand populism won a couple elections in the last couple of years. I'm not downplaying that, but it's a long story. Huey Long won a couple elections before he got shot too. I realized I was starting that story with Huey Long being like he lost, but I'm not sure if he lost before he got shot. I don't really remember, but I wasn't around, so I don't know. I'm pulling from history.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go for it. Yeah, I'm just.
But the whole premise of democracy is to hear both sides and to come up with the best solution of both sides. So what you're saying about recording, the opposition and that he taught it first, I think that's absolutely pure and the right way.
And so do the rabbis generally, but that's my answer to the tension between majoritarianism and individual rights, quite frankly. Individual rights can never survive in a populist system. Because when you decide that the only way to be right is to be in the majority, you automatically make everyone in the minority wrong morally. And so that's why it's such a dangerous way to organize to organize society. But we'll hopefully figure that out. Okay. So now we're gonna get he's gonna go to some of his own thoughts about what God might let's go into his imaginations here. So, but would that God might speak and talk to you directly, right? But it's not as neutral as that. The implication is he's saying, if only God would shut you up by interrupting you, and speak against you, right? It says imach, but it really means like with you. But really, in this case, it should be like negdach or something, negdecha, like against you. Right? He's like, if only God would do that, you would be told the secrets of wisdom, right? God would tell you the secrets of wisdom, the things that human beings are not meant to know. For there are many sides to sagacity, which is a really fun word. Being a sage, like the being of a sage, I guess. It's hard to translate. Sagacity. Anyway, it's funny because you never call someone sagacious, right? You just say that person's a sage. You don't say they're so sagacious. I can't even put those letters together in that way. Sagacity, terrific. There are many sides to being a chacham, right? To being a Torah sage or a sage in this time, I guess we'll say. And know that God has overlooked you for some of your iniquity. What is he saying here? What does it mean? Know that God has overlooked you for some of your iniquity.
Job might have not known about the iniquity and God overlooked it.
That's one possibility. I like that. What's another one?
I have to look up words. I'm really not on my phone.
Iniquity.
Another one. Right. So what's another one? What's another version of interpreting this line? This verse. He could be saying, you may have done so many sins, God has already overlooked some, and this is your punishment just for what he didn't overlook.
Essentially saying, Job, you're such a sinner that
he's saying, Job,
like
you
the
might
end
have
of
sinned
killing
so
you.
much that this is actually, you've already gotten a discount. And this is what you ended up with, right? This isn't even more than just wagging your finger. He's saying you might have deserved worse. Which I gotta say, folks, I'm not necessarily in the business of training anyone to be a rabbi or in pastoral care, but I will. We have some psychiatrists here, so they probably know, but it's probably best not to go into somebody's room who's suffering and say, you probably deserve worse than this.
You bet.
That's just, it just won't ever go well. I just know that.
You're depressed and have nightmares, you probably deserve.
Right, exactly. But you know what? The demons are coming to get you.
Yeah.
I mean, they would be the equivalent of you saying that, like, it's like, oh man, like it's you don't give in to the delusions.
Yep.
But this guy is full on being like, could be
Yep.
worse. Maybe it should be worse.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
right. He's like, okay, he's like, and then in verse 7, he says, would you discover, can you discover the understanding of God? the mystery of God, God's ultimate intentions, right? Mystery refers, we know this even from study of Heschel. Mystery refers more to God's design for the universe. Often it does. Here we have Heker. Um, right? And would you discover the limit of the Almighty or the purpose of the Almighty? Right? Essentially, how is it that you believe you are you a prophet or something? Yeah, like you can divine the will of God and somehow it just happens to be beneficial to you? That's amazing.
But the moral of the
Right? I
story-
mean, from this guy's perspective, you could see why he would feel righteous in this attack. We know he's not. But what if he was? What if this started, instead of what it started with, Hasbi Shalom, what if it started with, and Job was a wicked man, but he kept his wickedness concealed. And our hero in that case, Hasatan,
Something.
goes to God and says, I know of a man who's done more wickedness without anyone noticing, except for me, I guess, I don't know, than anyone in the world. But nobody believes it because they think he's this great guy. And God would say, well, how can you prove to the people that he is this thing if he's fooled them all for so much? And they did the test that way instead. Then you'd all be here, theoretically, if that were the purpose of the book, you'd be here and this guy would be the hero.
Yeah.
Because he's the only one who can see through it.
Shaitan is there.
In that case, Satan would be the hero. Satan would be the hero, but that's not the case in this book. I'm just saying you can imagine an alternate version in which this guy, the same stand appears heroic, right? Because he obviously has very strong beliefs. We just said before we love when people stick to their beliefs. He has a lot of. This is the problem, of course. Sometimes people have very strong beliefs. Me and Abdul Sayed have very different beliefs. He believes them very strongly. I believe mine very strongly. But there's obviously no here and there between us.
That's right.
Right? And that's what we're seeing. Yeah, here.
This is a very sharp, I think, verbal sword. Yes, we know Job is right, and we're proud of him for being able to stick up for himself. But this question, when I ask myself, Lauren, do you understand God's doings? I have to answer, of course not. And which is what he's asking.
Yeah.
But the punchline in this whole thing is Job isn't saying I want to understand. He just says, talk to me and tell me what I did wrong. And then God puts all those things he is, were you there when I made you and all of that? And Job ends up saying, you're right, I have no way of judging.
Mhm.
And then there's a Hollywood ending. He gets
Again, I try not to read ahead, and I try not to apply the end of the book to the
Right.
beginning of the book, because the
But this
book is written as a book. It is meant to be understood linearly.
right, but this is the at least inkling of what the problem.
No, you're right. I mean, look, it is true that. Look, I'm not saying there's no there in anything this guy is saying. It is true you shouldn't do some of what Job has done. And our moral wrestling with it isn't going to really be impacted by the conclusion of the book. I don't think.
Mm.
And I don't want to just apply because if we apply the conclusion to everything, then it's like giving you the end of the algebra equation before giving you the variables before you solve for them. Like we could do that, but then you would just say, okay, well, that number to that number, and then we're done. We solved, we did it. It's like, no, we're doing the variables together. That's what, but you're right about that. Yeah. Okay. So we'll move on now to verse 8. Gavhei Shamayim, higher than heaven. Ma tif'al. What can you do? What action can you take? And Amuka Misheol, deeper than Sheol, right? Like Emek, like valley, depth. Amuka, deeper than Sheol. What can you know? Right? So that you don't have the ability to change heaven. and you don't have knowledge of what God knows. You hear about deeper than Sheol. In other words, you don't understand the afterlife. And the afterlife is step one of understanding what it is to be on, like that would be the first step. And we can't even ever know that. So we're just too limited. Its measure is longer than the earth and broader than the sea. Should God pass by or confine or call an assembly? Who can put a stop to it? Right? Who can restrain God? Right? What does that mean?
God's not subject to a popular vote.
Right. Yes, that's true. Right. If God does something, if he confines people or assembles people or, right? Like, again, you can go back to God took the entire Jewish nation down to Egypt, enslaved us for 300 years, and then brought us up as a mixed multitude and a large nation out of Egypt and resettled us in the land we had come from. Who could have stopped that? God assembled the people of Israel in the desert to receive the Ten Commandments. There's no stopping what God wants to assemble or doesn't want to assemble. Who could stop? Who could restrain God from doing what God wants? For God is aware of deceitful people. Right? He knows vain men. He is familiar with sinners. And when seeing iniquity, discerns it. I like the other translation of it. I like better. He sees iniquity without looking for it. I like that. It's just like, right? Just like if you were passing over a room and suddenly just boop, popped out. The same way you pass and you see that the chairs are blue. You don't need to think about it. You just know it. That's how God doesn't even need to. There's not like you imagine God has to be like, ooh, let me take a look, like I'm getting into a computer, or like taking a look through a telescope. No, not even that much. It just pops out when God goes, I see. That's it. So right, so God. I like the implication that Job is trying to fool God, but didn't manage to fool this guy. Right? That somehow God might somehow be fooled. I mean, thankfully he never says that. That would be blasphemous.
Yeah.
But he's like, you can't fool God. You can't even fool me. Which just feels very like trying to put yourself. There are always those people, the zealots and stuff, who try and put themselves on a level one higher, below God, but one higher than everybody else, and that's no good. So he says the ish navuv, yilavev. That's fun. The hollow person will get understanding, or will take heart, or have heart. When a wild ass is born a human. What the heck does that mean? Meaning of Hebrew uncertain, by the way. When a person is born, he is like the colt of a wild ass. He must then grow and develop into a man. Right? So he's like, right? It's not like we don't even have time to develop into something that can understand it. We're born as idiot children that can't even like understand anything. They're basically donkeys. They're like they can't understand language. They can't do right. That's his. So he's like, and we got to train them up just to get to the level of a person, which is already not good enough for this kind of discerning. But if you direct your mind, if you, Job, direct your mind and spread forth your hands toward God, if there is iniquity with you, remove it. And do not let injustice reside in your tent. Then, free of blemish, you will hold your head high, and when in straits, be unafraid. And you will then put your misery out of mind. Consider it as water that has flowed past. I gotta say, also this is also terrible pastoral care. Be like, if only you just move on, you'll be fine. Just totally suppress it. Just bury it deep down. It's great advice, right? You guys can no.
Yeah, right.
Right. He's giving great advice here. Right? Consider it as water that's just flowed past. This guy, like a week ago, lost his whole family, all his children, all his homes, all his money. And this guy's like, just let it go. Just move on. Forget about it.
Mhm.
As people who've suffered loss, we know that's not quite how loss works. This guy's his I'm sure what he's saying is somehow theologically perfect to somebody, but to me it's got a lot of error. He says life will be brighter than noon. 2 p.m., 3 p.m. I think is brighter, but whatever. It's fine. To them, they think noon is brightest. That's fine. Right. So life will be brighter than noon. You will shine. You will be like the morning. That's funny. Kabocher tichie. Like the morning, you will be. You will be secure, for there is hope. And entrenched, you will rest secure. Right? You will lie down undisturbed. The great will court your favor, which they used to do anyway. But the eyes of the wicked pine away, unlike those who are innocent of sin. Escape is cut off from them. They have only their last breath to look forward to. Thoughts? That's the end of his speech.
Just a minor thought.
Yeah.
That last sentence catches me. They have only their last breath to look forward to. No judgment beyond death. It's relief for them.
Right, which is what, and a reference to Job's comments where he was saying how it would be
Early for him. I would rather be dead.
Well, remember, there's a concept of Sheol, but Sheol as a concept is not. I guess you would say if you want to call Sheol the Jewish version of hell, which it's not in the same way, even in an implication, but it's the closest thing we have. It's also temporary. It's not eternal damnation. So
it's a holding tank.
Yeah, it's generally a holding tank while your spirit. It's like you see like space movies and they have to go through like decontamination before they're allowed back into the spaceship. That's kind of like what Sheol is. I don't mean to be blasphemous, but like it's kind of like your soul picked up some crud while you were down there, and you gotta before you can come back into Olam Haba or Hashemayim or whatever you want to heaven, whatever you want to call it. You need to get the schmutz cleaned off. So it's an 11-month de-schmutzing, up to 11 months. For not everyone does it take 11 months. The righteous, it takes like a minute, and then they're done. Theoretically, the most righteous don't have to spend any time in Sheol, but I'm not sure anybody really qualifies for that level because we're all a little bit, especially since we don't have red heifers anymore, so we can't do like in the days of the temple. We could do these. People could take these ash showers in which they'd rub ash over themselves, but be theologically clean, ritually clean. So I'm not sure if people can be purified in every way enough to not spend any time in Sheol, but it's not like everybody's spending all 11 months down there. But if you were really bad, you spend it max 11 months.
Help me.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with two things. This notion of at the maximum 11 months. And yet I also have a thought coming from somewhere that you go to Sheol and you stay there until mankind is resurrected.
Oh, until Mashiach comes?
Yeah.
I'm sure that's part of it. I'll preface by saying I'm not an expert in eschatology or in the afterlife. Rather, we don't spend that much time. I don't spend that much time thinking about it. There may be some teachings that that's the way it is.
Okay, that's.
My understanding is that,
There are two kinds of thinking in Judaism.
There are more than one.
Yeah.
There's usually there's more than two.
Yeah,
I know that because there are some people who say Olam Haba is like heaven. There are some people who say Olam Haba will be earth after the coming of the Mashiach.
right.
Which is it? I can't tell you which it is.
No, is there a concept, because I don't read it in Judaism, of punishment, getting hurt, because there certainly is that in Christianity, and big time.
Torture, like
And
with
big time.
isn't that more? Wasn't that more Milton? And how much is that is Christianity, and how much of that is Milton? Paradise Lost.
Yeah, well, a lot of it came from the Quran. If you read the Quran, it's full of punishment. And
That's
that
easy
got
to believe.
that got into Dante, and then that got into Paradise Lost.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's true. Dante's Inferno is also a big.
Well, and then Paradise Lost just took after that, but
Yeah.
the stuff must have been around, because Dante almost quotes the Quran of all the terrible things that are going to happen to you.
Very well. I'm not aware. Also, I'm not aware. Maybe early Christian writings had a lot about this. I don't really know. I haven't read them. Like I just don't know.
Early Christianity said, God, Jesus is coming back in your lifetime.
Well,
It's
sure.
true.
I mean,
you know.
but still, I was just talking about on the
Right.
on the death and punishment
Right.
side. I don't know like
But
specifically.
we do have a Gehenna, though, don't we? Which suggests.
So Gehenna, yeah, Gehenna is
I thought
really.
it was more like
or-
a garbage dump.
I mean,
That's
in
what-
the real world, that's what it was,
Yeah.
or became for us. Gehinnom is one of the two valleys that
Sure.
border Jerusalem.
Sure, and they threw garbage in
Well, and before that, the Jebusites who lived there before David conquered the city used to burn children to death there, or pass them through the
it.
fire as worship of their god there. Hence why it's thought of, that's where the fiery imagery and all that comes from, is from that legacy of it. Yeah, there is that which gets close to hell.
Yeah. So
It's really not set, I don't think, who goes there or why, enough for me to speak on it. At least I don't have the knowledge of it to speak
Mhm.
authoritatively on it. So I'm gonna let that.
And I'm not
I'll
trying
look
to.
up more about Gehenna. I'm not,
I'm not trying to pin you down.
No, it's okay.
I'm just trying to say that we have this concept of Sheol, which is like the holding tank. We don't know for how long. And we also seem to have a concept beyond that of Gehenna, a hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And so
Yeah.
I think we're wise when we are able to say, we don't know.
no, yeah. I mean, but Judaism all the time says that, again, this is even brought up by this guy in this chapter. He says, who knows what's going to happen after? He says, who can know the mind of God? Who knows the mystery? Who knows the plan? You don't know where you're going to end up. You could end up in Sheol. You could end up in Gehenna. You could go straight to be with God. You could, nobody knows what, or you could just be dead. Like he basically says that these are all your options. We have no idea what awaits us. But you think you've solved beyond that, even all the way to, the makeup of the heavenly court in your, in your imaginings of your case before God. Right? Okay, let's try and get into chapter 12 so we can hear some of Job's response. So Job now responds. Indeed, you are, it says, Atem you are a people. He's now speaking, this is Atem means you all, so he must be speaking to at least two of them, possibly all three of them. He says, you are a people. In the commentator wants us to say, you are the voice of the people, right?
Says that in our translation.
Right, and that's good because in the Hebrew it only says ki atem It doesn't have the voice thing, but it means that. And wisdom will die with you.
Mhm.
Right? He says, Atem what does he mean by that? You are the majority, and this gives you confidence that you possess the truth. He's going to do the Captain America speech. I should know. He's going to say, but that does not you right, and he's also kind of responding right to it's a rhetorical it's similar to how the last friend started his speech. He says, you think you can see this, that, and the other. You think just by being loquacious, you win the argument. And now he's saying back to him, kind of, you think just because you're in the majority, you win the argument, right? So it's kind of a right. He says, but I, like you, have a mind, and am not less than you. Who does not know such things? Right? Or who does not, isn't like, right? Who does not comprehend these matters? He says, technically, I have a heart like you. Gamli levav kamochem. I have a heart like you. But again, they're using heart. They think the heart is kind of the center of anyway.
Feeling and.
Right. So he means I can think about, I can discern.
Yes.
Right? The heart does the discerning for them. We would say gut, but for them, they would say heart. Thinking like the process of do I move, how do I, I think they have some understanding that that's the brain, or at least I think they have some understanding of that. But discernment is the heart, is a matter of the heart. So now we understand it's also a matter of the brain. But the heart just is thank God for it, but it doesn't do that. But people have thought the heart does lots of things over the course of history that it doesn't really do. In any event, right? And he's like, I'm not less than you, and I've come to a different conclusion, and you're not saying anything I haven't heard before. He says, I have become a laughingstock to my friend. Right? But not friend. Again, terrible translation. Because what's Re'ah? What's a Re'ah?
Neighbor.
Yeah, a neighbor. Right? Because you never translate Ve'ahavta l're'echa kamocha as you should love your friend as yourself, because people would say that's too discerning. Anyway, so I've become a laughingstock to my neighbor. I am mocked by it. That right? I am mocked. He says, I was once upon a time they called me one who calls to God and is answered, blamelessly innocent. And now, right? I'm simply now I'm a laughingstock. Not just that. Yeah, I'm now I'm a laughingstock of who? Of the completely righteous, he says. What's he doing here? Again, sorry, yours doesn't have this because yours is bad. Sorry. JPS is good at a lot of things. They're terrible at translating poetry because they want to get too interpretive. And often they get a meaning that's not always in line with tradition. So I gotta go. That's why I have to do every verse twice with you guys most of the time when we get into this stuff. But yeah, so
the completely righteous are the friends.
but he's mocking them back to their face, right? He says, you all are mocking me, but he's mocking them now because he's like, oh, now they used to call me the one who God always listened to. And now I'm being mocked by the real righteous people. Right? He's also reminding them what? They're like, oh, you must have been a deep sinner. You must have been. It's like, it's been a week. He's like, I was like, you can't just rewrite history. He's saying, I went from the guy who God always listens to a total sinner, and you guys are the righteous ones all of a sudden. That's the look. If he could do this, the Boyles probably stopped it, but he would have made this face. It would have been hard. Anyway. He would have been like, really? I don't think so. You sure about that? Okay. So he says, I have become, oh my God. This is another really terrible translation. I have become a calamity that brings contempt to complacent composure, ready for those whose foot slips. In other words, a disaster that undermines the confidence of one who is at ease and self-assured is prepared for those who have slipped. right? He's saying about himself, not about. I don't like the translation because it says, in the thought of the complacent, there is contempt for calamity. It is ready for those whose foot slips. But that's like talking about calamity as like an actor in the world, and he's not really talking about, he's not making that kind of point, I don't think. I think he is trying to say that he is a cautionary tale for anyone who's complacent in the world, that thinks that just because they do, generally do okay, that they're gonna be okay. Again, that gets more to the idea of theodicy, I think, than in the thought of, I don't understand what that means. Like, it's like they're trying, but like they're also, quite frank, yeah, they're just trying. They're trying their best. Robbers live untroubled in their tents, and those who provoke God are secure, those whom God's hands have produced. Right? So even though those of us who do generally good most of the time, we're good people, we do whatever, calamity comes for us, we're not prepared for it. I am now. I can be a guide. I'm a cautionary tale. But how could I have been prepared for it? Meanwhile, by contrast, robbers, their tents, they're usually prepared for trouble, are they're prepared, and therefore they're doing fine. Everything's good with them. There's security in life for the provokers of God. Yet I know that this too is only as the hand of God engenders. Right? Such unexpected and incomprehensible outcomes are also controlled by God. This is the tension in this chapter. Saying what we've all talked about many times in this class. Bad people can have security, and good people can get turned out of their homes. But God produced both outcomes. At least that's the idea. But ask the beasts, and they will teach you. Even they will teach you. The birds of the sky, they will tell you. Even though obviously neither of them can do either of these things. Or speak to the earth, and it will teach you. The fish of the sky. Fish of the sky. Fish of the sea. Okay, sorry. I was like, fish of the sky.
Fine.
I was like, what? It's like, what kind of drugs is he on now? Like, he's starting to he got so many diseases, his brain is starting to like melt. Sorry, mine is, I guess. The fish of the sea, they will inform you. Right? It's a different word. It's not just tell, the yaged lecha, like the birds of the sky. It's vaisapru lecha. They will tell you a story. They will inform you. They will share this truth with you. Who among all these does not know that God's hand has done this? One second, I'm sorry. In that hand is every living soul and the breath of all humankind. Truly, the ear tests arguments as the palate tastes foods. Right? He's even saying, even God decides whether you think that sounds right to you. Just as God said about your taste buds, which determined how you would, right? God set up, you could, if he knew the term neurons in brain, he would say, God set up the neurons such that they would fire in such a way that you would think what you think. It would be what he would say, I guess, if this was 2026. Sorry, just have to cancel something. Is wisdom in the aged and understanding in the long-lived? Right? Wisdom and courage are God's, as are counsel and understanding. Whatever God tears down cannot be rebuilt. Whoever is imprisoned cannot be set free. By the way, this is also part of, this isn't the verse where they get it, but like, this is part of the idea of like, why the Haredim are so anti-Zionist. They don't like Israel, even though they take a lot of money from Israel. They don't like it because the idea is that God destroyed the Jewish sovereignty, and therefore God will bring back Jewish sovereignty when the Messiah comes. And human attempts to restore sovereignty are human attempts to rebuild what God has torn down, and that's part of why they're not kosher. They don't see it as a kosher project because they're like, well, God, we have to wait for God to do this. It's not acceptable for humans to do it because it wasn't an accident that it happened in the first place. Obviously, most of us disagree with them on lots of things, including that. When the waters are held back, they dry up. When they are let loose, they tear up the land. Strength and resourcefulness are God's. So are erring and causing to err. Right? And that's interesting here. Kind of it's referring to the erring, the misled, which is the unintentional sinner, and the causing to err, the Satan, are both gods.
Mhm.
And now we're kind of getting to the meta crux of the
Yeah,
matter,
they have to be.
which is
God
his point, which he's getting closer than he knows, which is none of this would have happened if like this wasn't natural. Is the thing, of course. God did ordain it, though not directly. That helps theologically. He didn't say go do this, that, and the other. But like God said, yes, you can do this, which is the only reason this happened. But he's closer than he knows.
Yeah.
I said, God thus makes counselors go about. Right, he leads counselors astray. I don't know why it says naked. It doesn't use the word naked here.
Right.
Um.
Down below it says a sign of madness.
Oh. Okay. Fair
Well,
enough.
then that goes with all the guys we worked with.
Right, he says he leads counselors astray, and causes judges to go mad, or renders judges fools. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Mhm.
On the one hand, he undoes the belts of kings, right? By that he means removes the restraints.
Mhm.
Right. He removes the ruling power of kings as God removes their authority. In other words, remember when he took
Mhm.
he's like, you're not going to be king anymore. I'm going to make this other guy king. Right? God can just do that. And on the other hand, it is God that fastens their, again, belts, loincloths. This is all, it means the same thing. It's like if you're getting your gear on for battle. So that's what it's referring to. He also binds up that fastens loincloths on them, right? He's also the one who gives them the power to reign. God leads priests astray and leads temple servants, and he corrupts temple servants. I guess it's just the mighty here. Oh, okay. They're saying that it's a class of temple servants. That's interesting. That's not okay. Interesting. Right. So it's just like he's kind of just tearing at the structures of everything at this point. So everyone's misled. The priests are misled. The leaders are misled, or given reason or given power, because all due to God. God deprives trusted ones of speech and takes away the reason of elders. Pours disgrace upon nobles and loosens the belt of the mighty. Loosens the belt of the mighty is actually weakens the dam of the water courses. So when dams break and things overflow, it's saying God did that too, right? It's saying he's actually saying pours disgrace upon nobles, and weakens the dam of the watercourses. He could be saying here, the commentator says, he releases the masses upon them like water currents breaking through dams. So not a very masses pro book. Draws mysteries out of the darkness and brings obscurities to light. Exalts nations, then destroys them, and expands nations, then leads them astray. God deranges the leaders of the people and makes them wander in a trackless waste. They grope without light in the darkness, made to wander as if drunk.
But again, God did all this.
Yeah.
So God did Hitler too.
Well, that's where I was gonna go too. Yes, God has all power and everything,
Only if you think Job is right here. I disagree with Job
yeah,
a little bit.
because there is free will.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I disagree with Job because Job is discounting free will. So yeah, I don't think he's right. I think there's an element of truth in the aspect of what we might want to take from it is you can't know what'll happen in the world. And there is no rhyme or reason to some of the things that just happen in the course of things. Even if they're sad, even if they're not what we would wish, even if it means the bad get good and the good get bad.
Is it possible that God's frame of reference is beyond our comprehension?
Yes.
Yeah. And so all of this happens, and we don't know what his
Right.
judgment is.
Right. That's what,
We assume it, we think it's like ours, but come on now.
Well, that's a big problem. And this is where, look, none of these figures is all right or all wrong,
Right.
I would venture to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they're all like they're all the friends are wrong about everything and Job is right on everything. I don't think that's true.
No.
But
that would make my point that we are struggling with a way of us reasoning it, and God may be so much above that we
totally
haven't. I've read readings in which say God is beyond categories and thinking.
to be meta about the meta discussion, we were given this book to understand the Odyssey. So this book must, in other words, reading it to understand it must be desirable to God.
Exactly.
Or we would not have this book in our canon.
I have no problem.
So I'm just saying, it's like, we can't just read it being like, well, whatever conclusions it presents must be uncritically taken.
Yeah,
right, yeah. The conclusion you can argue. If you want. We will, I'm sure.
And the argument between Job and his friends is actually the argument within each one of us.
Right.
Yes.
Which is another point because none of us are completely right or completely wrong about anything. Our perspective is too small to get back to. Our perspective is too small to be able to do such a thing.
I that totally.
So we just can't. We can't say that, and then we will get to next week. Job will talk about. We'll finish his speech, which will be more. I'm more convinced than I ever was that you all are idiots, and I want to talk. I want to bring my, debate my argument to somebody who can actually help me.
Sadly, I have to miss next week, but I'll be.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I'll be in on Zoom. Or
I'll
not Zoom, but I'll be
here in person unless things intervene.
Terrific. I'm glad to hear it from